So this video is just a final recap. Is there something that's like the same price range that might be something to consider? Yes, there is actually. And is the case really that bad for heat or noise? No, it's not. As long as your processor is 65 watt TDP or less. There's just a couple things to consider. So let's get started. So for those wondering if you should get this case or not, well, there's a few things to consider here. It is a great value, of course, like I mentioned before, but keep in mind, you can't just go into a store and say, I want any 65 watt TDP processor. This is not going to give you that gaming system you may want. If you want a gaming system, you have to get something that fits a graphics card. So keep that in mind. There's also the Inwin Chopin. It has better airflow. If I were to actually modify this case to anything that'd work, I'd get a mesh, metal mesh, just like the Chopin, and guess what, this case would be better. The Chopin itself is by Inwin. It has 150 watts rather than 200 watts. It's bronze, not gold efficiency, which means this one is about 7-ish to 10% or so, somewhere around there. Extra power efficiency, so you get less waste power. It's going to save you pennies over the year, maybe $1. And of course, if you watched my previous video, I might wonder, well, I only have 2 headers for my fan headers. So if you need to, say, connect your 80mm fan with the case, you can use something like this little fan header, an idea, where you got one header you can use, connect one to your 80mm fan, and then connect the other side to your CPU cooler fan. That way you can save yourself a header, and then have your power supply header free for fan control. The Inwin Chopin will have about the same fan noise as the Inwin B1. Both of the power supplies are made by the same company. They probably have the same fan. And might there be any concerns about that 150 watt versus that 200 watt power supply? There could be. Let's say you have a high power CPU that can draw a lot of power and you're playing games often. It could end up killing that 150 watt power supply prematurely. Being that it's kind of plastic rather than the metal of the Chopin, it's gonna piss you off possibly when putting it together. Just being honest, if you don't have everything just so and you'll be fighting with it and cursing the day, I'd recommend you to buy it. But it's stylish, and if you're not picky about things, well, it's a case that works. Just have to consider what you're getting. Of course, one of the reasons to get this case is I can fit the retail cooler from AMD 65 watt TDP processor. Intel would fit in this or the Chopin. And of course, one thing to consider too as well, if you have grandkids or whatever, they may end up pushing it off this tower because there's no way to clip it in. It's kind of silly. And if you put horizontal, there's no way to get like really great cooling. So if you have temperature issues, that's too bad, so sad, honestly. And it's a fingerprint magnet, so the Chopin itself is not a fingerprint magnet, but it's not a showcase case that to show off your RGB lighting or special lighting or whatever. But you still can see through it, but not as nice as this. So this is a case mostly for someone that wants something different, that wants something that's good value. But let's say if you want to play games, honestly, the Chopin's not going to give you the ability to put a graphics card. This only going to allow you to play basic games based on your processor. There's no upgrading without buying a new computer chip. So the Node 202 or something might actually be the better bet, where you have the power supply built in. Again, it's going to be twice the cost of this thing. So like I said, great value. That's basically unbeatable in this case. So let's take a step back here for a sec. The Node 202 comes in 2 versions, one with a power supply and one without. So you can get one with 450 watt power supply or purchase your own. You'll see 2 different costs. Just keep in mind, there's one without and one with a power supply. The Node 202 is a bit bigger than this. The Chopin is smaller than this. And the Chopin, which is made by Inwin as well, is mountable to your computer screen if you have a VESA mount, 100 by 100 VESA mount, little screws, 4 screws. This can't be mounted to the back of your computer screen. So the Chopin actually has its own advantages, and most other computer cases have 2 USB at the front. This only has 1. So if you like it, it's up to you here, but The reason I got this one personally is because it was, well, great value. 200 watts, gold series. I'm all about efficiency personally. My sister could probably care less. I didn't have to change the cooler that came with my Ryzen 65 watt TDP. It can fit in here. It can't fit in the Chopin. In the end, I'm getting a different cooler anyways. That's smaller. That can fit in the Chopin. So I run a core processor 3800X. It runs way too hot in this. And I want a video card for accelerating my tasks. This is not going to cut it for a person that does editing on a constant basis. If you're looking for something that's fast and will save you time. This is something for the grandkids. You want to give them something to play games on, or something for yourself, and you just cruise the internet. That's just the simple fact of it. Oh yeah, and the Inwin Chopin is made of metal, not cheap plastic. So I hope I helped you with your decision if you want this case or not. It's a great value, there's no denying that. Not getting something too high power? Well, and this is not too big for you, perfect size, whatever, get it. If you got small devices like the Noctua cooler right here, well, guess what? Chopin's fine. Smaller, fits the back of a computer screen, has more USB ports. That might be your better value. Thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great day.
This is not BIOS, tech and hardware.